ass whooping lesson put on them by the champs, by Belichick and Brady and right on down the line.
Hey, Sony Michel, everybody kicked their behinds. It was you know what was the most disturbing part about that loss, 38-7? The Dolphins got owned, dominated, destroyed at the line of scrimmage.
Both of them, right. And when you say how did they win the first 3 games, you'd probably start with, okay, they won the lines, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's
my old school strategy, Dave.
What's worse?
About success in the NFL. And you always downplay it.
Well,
you always say it's about points and who scores touchdowns and offensive efficiency.
It is. And it was that game because it was interesting. The Patriots went 6-7 defensive backs, and they still owned the lines. They still whipped them. And Adam Gase would not. He gave up on the run.
Absolutely. I don't understand why people don't understand why he gave up on the run. They were horrendous on third downs. They were consistently facing 3rd and 12.
Well, they were horrendous on first down. They were awful on first down, which put them into really bad third down situations.
Definitely with penalties and just bad decisions. I looked up all of their third down plays. You're talking about 2 passes short of the sticks. 2 incompletions, 2 sacks, interception. Like, come on, man. Like, you can't play that way on third downs and give yourself a chance. And then defensively, you're getting off the field 50% of the time on third downs. And they're not always in 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. You're just a team that's struggling on third downs. And it's going to be a long season if you don't fix those problems.
Well, the good news is they're not going to play Tom Brady every week.
Absolutely.
But they do play a hot Cincinnati team, scoring 31.5 points a game, 4th best in the NFL. And what's this Dolphin offense had trouble doing, even when they're winning, scoring a lot of points.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Here's a question that I have for you. Question number 1. It comes from Mike Chapman. The play calling and usage of Drake 2 weeks in a row has been alarming. Does it change in week 5?
It has to change. They cannot run Kenyon Drake 3 times. Okay? Now, no matter how bad he's doing, no matter how bad the offensive line, that's not a recipe for victory. And in fact, Belichick went into the game and he said, Adam Gase loves to throw. They got speed. I'm going to negate that speed. We're going to play a lot of defensive backs and dare them because I don't think they can run on us. And they couldn't run on them. And the master, you just bow down to Belichick. In the Super Bowl, he used 9 defensive backs against the Bills and dared Jim Kelly to throw them. And he just gave a lesson for the Dolphins again this week.
It's interesting and very telling about any time you play the Patriots, especially when you play them early, because you're going to see the recipe for beating this Dolphins team. And it's a mystery every year. He will expose your Philip Wheeler and your issue. Whatever your issue is, he will expose it. And to me, it was their inability to set the edges and their linebackers' inability to shed blocks. Once they got those guards and centers to the second level, it was over. Stop running the ball. Now the question is, Miami receivers-wise, they couldn't get off the press. And to me, that was a major issue in terms of why your Smurf receivers couldn't become productive playmakers.
Yeah, and both ways. You see plays from the last game where Charles Harris is being pancaked on that touchdown run. I believe it was maybe 15 yards by Sony Michel. Mm-hmm. He just got put down, and the Patriot lineman standing over him, and you see things that at this point you're like, okay, this is a major problem for the Dolphins.
Yeah. Question number 2 comes from Wonder McFlurry, who wants to know, do you think the lack of true number 1 receivers will keep the Dolphins from taking the next step?
Well, there are a lot of things right now that are going to keep them from taking the next step. That would be one of them.
You could start with playing an offensive tackle as a tight end and Sam Young.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of issues. A lot of issues. And you know, for the first 3 games, they played well enough and they didn't lose games. You know, they let the other team make the big mistake, which that's the mark of a good team. Okay, but they got exposed for a lot of things this game that a lot of things caught up to them. Yes, they need Devontae Parker on the field. More than that, they need him on the field being productive. And we haven't seen either of that very often in his going on 4 years now. And so, you saw one of his mates, his draft classmates, get cut this week in Jordan Phillips.
Oh, that's a specialty right there. I'm not a Jordan Phillips fan.
Give Omar credit. I mean, he's been called out by Jordan Phillips on Twitter for criticizing him through the years.
Yes, Jordan Phillips and I have issues, primarily because I always call out the fact that he's lazy and doesn't bring effort. And guess the Dolphins had enough of it.
But that was the question of him out of college.
Absolutely.
Just as Devontae Parker's question was injuries and inconsistency.
Absolutely.
And so are the Dolphins
are they learning anything?
Have they learned anything?
Here's the important thing that I don't think I will take from the 2015 draft class. Don't ignore or overlook the warts in the draft process. Because Jordan Phillips, I remember the day he was drafted, and I looked at his film, and I was just like, oh, that guy plays 15 snaps, and then he's on the field for another 30, but he's not really there. And that persisted throughout his NFL career. He'd be great for 5-10 snaps a game. And then...
Well, let me ask this follow-up question before we get on to these questions. Laramie Tunsil.
Oh,
there's a guy who came in with a few questions.
Maturity questions.
Charles Harris. He came in with some, not maturity question with Charles Harris.
No,
just light and.
Here's the problem with Charles Harris, and this is why I don't really understand the fan base's confusion regarding this. Okay, Charles Harris, talented athletic pass rusher, but played in a 3-4 scheme as an outside linebacker in college. Couldn't set the edge, couldn't stop the run. And then you come to the NFL and you say, oh, we can fix those things. That's, he's not, don't overlook the size issues. He's a scheme fit for us. Well, same issues that he had in college are the same issues that he has right now. And, continuing, don't ignore the warts. Laramie Tunsil, maturity, OG. Last week, Tunsil had a bad game, and the offensive line had a bad game.
Everybody on the offensive line had a bad game.
Justin Davis wasn't bad. Yeah, like one of every. Laramie Tunsil gave up a sack. Kilgore gets injured.
Penalties.
Travis Swanson penalties. Tunsil with the pushing a defender off Ryan Tannehill. Love the thought process behind that, but you just cost your team a drive. Maturity has always been the issue. Now the question is, will he overcome that? Will Charles Harris overcome his inability to stop the run and set the edge? What was really troubling to me, and no disrespect to any of the individuals involved, but Jonathan Woodard, a practice squad player who got called up last week to replace Andre Branch and William Hayes, he outplayed Charles Harris, your first-round pick.
He played more snaps than Charles Harris.
No.
No, he did. He
outplayed Charles Harris.
Obviously, but the coaches saw that too, and they said, we're going to play him more than Charles Harris.
I never thought about it that way.
Okay, let's go
So you're saying that the coaches knew
well,
he
they
would
saw
outplay
in the
Charles
game.
Harris.
It was only by a few plays this game, but the fact that it's even anything tells you the coaches during the game said, boy, we need to.
But hold on. Caveat to
now
that
they
is
play on opposite sides.
They play on opposite sides. One is for stopping the run, and one is for rushing the passer. You got two pass rushers in Cam Wake and Robert Quinn. You don't really have anybody to stop the run. And
you got no pass rush. You got no pass rush. We can talk about the pass rushers. They got 6 sacks all year in 4 games.
Hit Brady a couple of times.
They're ranked 29th in the league in sacks. Okay, for a team that was supposed to be a strength.
Yeah.
It hasn't been through the quarter pole. Okay, let's go. C.S. Finns asks, is Gase getting too much credit for being an offensive genius? How many points has his team averaged during his entire run? I see McVay, Nagy, Peterson, etc. come in to their teams as offensive geniuses and put up 30-plus points a game. The Dolphins struggle to get 21 points.
I don't see a single lie in that question. And, I came into the season, I said, 2 things need to be accomplished for me to believe that Adam Gase is that guy. I think he's a good coach. I think he's got a good offensive mind. I think he's got a couple of things to learn, but so does everybody else. But I needed to see them put up 24 points offensively, not defensive score points, not special team score points. Your offense needs to, on a consistent basis, average 24 points. And I need to see you get out of the bottom tier and become a top 16 team when it came to third downs. Right now you're converting 31% of your third downs. And you don't sit there and wonder why we only get 39 snaps, 44 snaps on offense.
This is twice. Well, it works both ways. The defense can't get off the field.
That's true.
And
That's
the
true.
other teams are, the last couple games, high 70s in snaps. I think the Patriots had 81 actually, and the Raiders had 78. Then
Just
you
rub
go,
it in, Dave. Just rub it in.
and the Dolphins are getting, 42 and 49. I mean, Gase wants 60 to 70 snaps a game, not even coming close to that. So, look, this is on the table of Adam Gase being an offensive mind. And, in year 3, that's a very fair question to be asking.
One aspect of the NFL that cannot be ignored, that shouldn't be ignored, and actually to piggyback on that, I wrote a column about it in terms of Earl Thomas's injury and the fact that Le'Veon Bell won't play. Injuries are a certain guaranteed certainty in the NFL. You better get your money when you can. That's another story. But getting back to the injury point, this Dolphins team kind of decimated by injuries. In the first quarter of the season.
Decimated is a little harsh.
Hear me out.
A little strong. Okay,
hear me out. You lose your top run stuffer. You're in William Hayes. You're on your third string tight end. And don't feel comfortable enough in playing him, so you actually have to play an offensive tackle as a tight end. You're on your second center. You're on your second left guard. 2 starters down of 5 on your offensive line. Hey, I'm not finished yet. Dave. Bobby McCain, your second cornerback and your backup nickel. Rashad Jones, your starting Pro Bowl safety, team's top playmaker. Andre Branch, a rotational defensive end. Hey, Dave. Hell, Devontae Parker. What's up with Devontae Parker?
And as with Devontae Parker and a lot of these injuries, you knew they were coming.
Chase Allen.
You knew they were. He's back on the field today. You knew they were coming, okay? All these 30-year-olds they got in football, these bodies.
You did warn us.
These bodies wear down. Josh Sitton, Daniel Kilgore, these are wear and tear
That was
issues.
your obsession about this offseason.
I did not get. I don't like signing 30-year-olds plus the big money. I mean, I thought Danny Amendola, he's still healthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
You thought he'd be done by now?
William Hayes missed most of last year, missed all training camp, and now it was a freaky injury he got this time, okay? Unfortunate. But let's not be surprised he got hurt, okay?
Because he's a 34-year-old man?
Yeah, and who with a history of injuries.
No,
Okay.
he doesn't have a history.
He missed all last year, 10 games last year.
No.
He missed all training camp and preseason this year. And they're having rest days for a lot of these Dolphins, which
That is true.
Which boggles my mind. You're building a culture. The whole thing is culture.
Hey. Frank Gore's a 35-year-old man. He doesn't need to practice every day.
You're building a culture. Your culture can't be, we're resting a lot of players here, okay? If you're building a culture, build a culture. But don't do that and then give this, no, we can't play these guys. So it's very weird. But yes, they've been hit by injuries. A lot of teams are hit by it. Tyler Eifert's out this week, a big part of the Bengals offense. Teams are hit by injuries.
They're not on their third tight end.
You know what? Let's talk about that third tight end stuff. Marquise Gray didn't play at all last year. All of a sudden,
He did play last year.
Barely.
In situations.
Barely played at tight end.
All right.
Okay.
Fine.
And so they draft 2 tight ends. Now they're not ready. But the larger point is they didn't have an answer at that position. Okay, that's
the tight
to me.
ends aren't ready.
Are
you going to eat a fruit before it's ripe?
Well, what you got to do is make sure you got someone who can play, who's ready to play, and what's our plan?
That was A.J. Derby.
Meanwhile, you got 4 quarterbacks on the roster. And you wonder why the depth.
Hey, don't you complain that they don't take enough quarterbacks, don't develop enough quarterbacks? Now they want to develop quarterbacks, and it's a problem.
28-year-olds are not developing quarterbacks. I'm sorry. Okay, Derek Capo asks, what coaching lessons do you think Adam learned from the master this weekend? Seems like their coaching was phenomenal compared to ours.
You know, to me, there wasn't much I could learn outside of my personnel. We got our tails whooped. how do I compensate, mask this to address the fact that I got beat up at the line of scrimmage on offense and defense? Well, I don't think it helps that you got rid of Jordan Phillips. Not that he was great, but he gave you at least 15 snaps. Now you don't even have anybody giving you 15 snaps in a 3 defensive tackle rotation.
We played 25 last week, and he was in on 4 tackles. So, or excuse me, 1 tackle last week, which tells you you're getting nothing out of him. Now, should you cut him? Things have built up. Things have built up.
Every year, Adam Gase has used October to send a message to his team.
He has.
In 2016, when they were 1-4, he cut Dallas Thomas, rightfully so, Jamil Douglas, and Billy Turner. The other 2, they're still hanging around in the NFL, but Dallas Thomas had no damn business being here.
Well, he'd been warned about that, and it was his first year. He said everybody's going to get.
Yep.
Now, with Jordan Phillips, we're into year 3 of Gase and him together, year 4 of Jordan Phillips and him. It does seem a little weird every year. In October, you got to be doing this, though, right? Because
sometimes you need to get your team's attention.
Well, he's got his attention between the New England and firing a player. He's got his attention. And if you want to paint this well, they're 3-1. He's got their attention. The Patriots, Bill Belichick got their attention last week when they were 1-2, and all New England thought the sky was falling. So let's see whatever they Dolphins are. I think you'll see it this weekend.
Here's our next question comes from Alec Leth. Well, I don't know how to say that.
Axel Leth.
Axel Leth, yes. Do you think the Dolphins will implode and return to their old selves, or rise to the adversity after the Patriots game?
I think they're in trouble this weekend. Cincinnati's hot, they score points. This Dolphin offense hasn't shown me yet they can score a lot of points.
So you don't think Miami's leadership, the reason that
I'm
these
not
guys
doing this leadership. I'm doing the talent. I'm going to talent. I don't want this leadership stuff.
Oh, you know what? You don't believe in culture change, Dave?
Well, I believe in culture, but I believe it should be part of what a coach comes in and right from day one develops.
But in the situation with Jordan Phillips, if you feel like you got a cancer and you remove that cancer.
So why do you wait year 3?
He was cheap.
Right, I get it. I mean, you thought you could bring him out.
Yes.
I get that.
Yeah, man, they might have just given up a compensatory pick.
I have no problem firing a guy if you think he's hurting you inside the team. I don't know how it really helps you, though.
Yeah, well, yeah.
We'll see.
The question is, leadership has to step up. This has to be those games where they can't afford one of these University of Miami hangovers. Lose to FSU and then be woe is me for 2 weeks and lose another game. They can't afford a hangover. And you got to wipe that.
I tell you what they need is a good game from Ryan Tannehill this time. Okay, they got a bad game from him in New England. And he everything to that point is very efficient. He'd made a few really good passes. He's
still struggling on third downs, though.
Well, he's still struggling, and as far as playmaking, I thought he had a couple good touchdowns to Kenny Stills, but that was a game in New England that begged for the quarterback to bail him out, and they got nothing from him. He got beat up, but he didn't create anything on his own.
Before he got beat up, they got nothing from him. So it'll be interesting.
All right, let me ask you this one, Omar. Mike wants to know, the Dolphins struggled with press coverage. Why doesn't Gase use more bunch sets to help?
I think he does use bunch sets. I mean, that's why you see Albert Wilson and Jakeem Grant. What people don't understand is the offense goes in there with like 3 plays, and they call the plays predicated on what the defense is showing them. So when you see those quick screens, that's because the defense is playing off, and they're hoping that, hey, we catch it, we get in 4 yards as a run, and maybe even more. And the first 3 games of the season, you were getting more.
Well, yeah, but teams see that, and I'm surprised it took that long to stop those bubble screens. You knew Belichick was going to be ready for that,
person
right?
was going to stop it. It was going to be
This
Belichick.
offense goes horizontal a lot of times and very rarely vertical, especially on games like that. And that'd be one of my criticisms of it.
But I think they do use, they're going to struggle against the press without Devontae Parker.
Right.
That's just the reality of it. Every receiver serves a purpose in this offense. You know what Devontae Parker's purpose is? To play press coverages. Nobody else's purpose is to play press coverages. It's Devontae. The problem is you don't have another guy who could do it.
Like Albert Wilson's touchdown against the Jets, They backed off him. He got a free run. And that's where their speed comes into play if teams allow it.
But when they want to be in your face and jam you.
Now, I'll say not a lot of teams get in the face like the Patriots do. Okay, not a lot of now. Maybe we're going to see a start.
Oh yeah, you're going to see a lot of teams. I don't know about Cincinnati because they play a lot of zone, but I'm playing press against these Dolphins.
All right, Eric Suprent asked, "Do you think Adam Gase's commitment to Ryan Tannehill will ultimately be his downfall? Tannehill doesn't seem to be able to make those around him better." Now, remember, just last week you said he was doing that. Whatever that glow, movie.
It was the
that
show
movie,
He was going to be shown up.
I want to see a little consistency here.
All right, fine. The main criticism that I've always had about Ryan Tannehill is his lack of consistency, is his struggles on third downs. Well, he played well first 3 games, then he came back down to earth. Next game, you might have a 80, 90 quarterback rating, and the next week he'll give you a 100 quarterback rating, and the next week he'll give you a 50. That's just the nature of Ryan Tannehill. And then on top of that, struggles on third downs. Now, I don't blame all of the third down issues on Ryan Tannehill, but it has been a consistent issue for 6 years. So at some point, you got to see a quarterback who is willing, able, and capable of making big boy throws. Have you seen that from Ryan Tannehill?
You've seen a few throws this year. 75-yard touchdown to Kenny Stills. In the Raiders game, he had a great laser over the middle. But are you saying consistently? No, to me, Tannehill needs Matt Ryan talent around him. He needs one of the game's great receivers. He needs a tight end. He needs a great running game, a very effective offensive line. Then he'll be fine. But if you're asking him to lift the boat of the offense, to be Tom Brady-ish or Aaron Rodgers-ish or Pat Mahomes-ish right now, that's not your guy. And as far as the question, Gase has married himself to Tannehill.
He has.
Okay. And you know, he's got 4 quarterbacks there.
But he came here for Tannehill. He had options.
He said. Now, yeah, he had options, you're right.
This is the quarterback he chose.
What he's smartly done is back Tannehill 1,000%. And said, he's my guy. You guys don't know what you're talking about, criticism. That's what a coach should do.
And we'll defend him to the end. And the question is, he's supposed to be a quarterback whisperer. Can he? And so far, he's propped him up. Ryan Tannehill is still the 7th highest rated quarterback in the NFL. So I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, it's Gase isn't doing his job. He's propping him up. He's a top 10 quarterback right now. 3-1 team. Facing a lot of adversity.
So why do we feel like things are sinking, Omar? It's that Patriot, the Patriot,
it's a Patriot
beatdown, the annual beatdown in Foxborough, right?
Yeah, they rang that bell, and psychologically you just weren't ready and weren't prepared for it. But I think you lost in a fashion that you didn't expect. You didn't expect to be pushed around.
There's no shame to losing to the Patriots.
Absolutely,
in
especially in
Foxborough. To lose that way was shameful.
Definitely.
All right, let's go look ahead to this Sunday now. The Bengals are 3-1 heading into Sunday's game and possess the NFL's 4th most efficient offense. Cincinnati's averaging 31.5 points per game, 76 yards per contest. Andy Dalton's completing 65% of his passes and has 3 top-shelf receivers in A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, and John Ross. Can the Dolphins' offense keep pace with the Bengals?
No.
I'm with you. That's what scares me about this game. They can't be asked to score 31 points, right?
No. like where have you seen in evidence of this team that we're playing that we cover been able to score 31 points? I just don't. Where are 4 touchdowns coming from?
It would be the outlier if it happens.
Absolutely.
So
on the road especially.
Yeah.
You got to wait for maybe a team to melt in Sun Life Stadium before you can put up some points on them in the 4th quarter, which has been the case.
Now, Tyler Eifert out for the Bengals, that's a big plus for the Dolphins. A big receiving tight end they don't have to worry about. Yeah. But
they weren't that bad against Gronk last week. They double covered him.
They double covered him the whole game.
Yeah.
We're not,
you got to do what you got to do,
of the
Dave.
game. I'm with you. That's what we said they should do, right?
Absolutely.
But that left some other pieces open.
You know what? A lot of Miami's coverage issues were breakdowns. And Xavier Howard probably played his worst game
Yeah,
in
that
the
was
NFL.
surprised. That was disappointing too, because 3 games you're saying he's elite. He's there, and
But it wasn't like they picked on him. Let's look at the situation. Well, on the pick, they certainly did pick on him.
legal pick within a yard of the line of scrimmage.
I don't know if that was a legal pick, man. But hey, Xavier never recovered anyway, leaving Cordrea Patterson wide open. And then the touchdown that the University of Miami receiver caught,
Philip Dorsett.
I mean, that was a beautiful throw by Tom Brady and a circus catch. Like literally, he flipped over catching that football.
That was great. That's a highlight of the year, right? For Brady and Dorsett. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably highlighted Dorsett's career. I'm sure he's going to score more touchdowns. Probably in the Super Bowl, he'll score some touchdowns. But do I feel confident that this Dolphins team can put up 31 points? Only if the defense is scoring too.
Well, that's the scary thing. Is as you've alluded to, we've seen explosive plays here and there from the Dolphins. We haven't seen this great scoring machine. And Joe Philbin, you said 24 points. Going back to Joe Philbin, he
2014,
he
had 24.
He said my offense has got to score 25 every year. He'd say 25 points is the goal. Never hit it. In fact, the Dolphins' offense 24 is as close as they've come in the past decade. So
2014 7-9 team.
Yeah. So
or were they 8-8? I can't remember.
It's all blended. Mediocrity. That's like, is that tan or is that khaki? You know, it's all the same. You know. All right. Sean Snoozer wants to know: will Xavier Howard be shadowing AJ Green, and where in the Bengals defense do you see something that we can exploit?
That's a good question, because if you want big dog salaries, you got to do big dog jobs. Xavier Howard believes he's a shutdown corner. He's shown you that he's a shutdown corner. Is he an A.J. Green shutdown corner?
Well, I'd go, what are your options? Because Bobby McCain's hurt.
Yeah.
Torrey McKyer's your second cornerback. If they get A.J. Green on a guy the Dolphins really don't want to be starting, that's going to be a long day. So I think he has to shadow him.
Here's the problem that I have with what you said. Now that we're putting Torrey McTyer or Cordrea Tankersley on the opposite side where he's guessing about where his coverage help is, just stick him to one side, allow him to get comfortable. Maybe on third downs and in the red zone, you put Xavier Howard over there. But my theory on this game is it's a better strategy to put a safety, give him cornerback help, and put a safety over top of A.J. Green. And dedicate your cover. That's the one type of receiver.
You do that too?
Yeah, and leave Xavier Howard over there to sort of take away the other. If one guy's double covered, the other guy's going to get a lot of action. I got a better chance of getting that action over there than I do.
I'm getting some hives breaking out just talking about these Bengals receivers against a beat-up secondary here.
Yeah. Hey, Bobby McCain is a tough loss, and people don't understand why, because he's the guy in the secondary that reads the defense and says, hey, this is coming. We need to do this coverage. That guy that sews it all together. And how Rashad Jones, not there.
And let's go back to the training camp. Remember, Bobby McCain playing outside was option B. So already, you know, here's what really needs to happen in this game. If you're drawing up the recipe for the Dolphins, they need a pass rush to materialize. And it hasn't been there this year. The defensive ends are the strength.
They're in the backfield. They're in the backfield.
29th in sacks is all. And I know it's not all about sacks. I get that. But let's not forget that is a guideline for the pass rush.
I do believe that Cameron Wake has had success in Cincinnati, and I'm going to bank on Cameron Wake is going to deliver sacks.
I'm not counting out Cameron Wake. I'm just saying that pass rush needs to be there.
Our next question comes from Cameron Scott, who, if Bobby McCain can't go against Cincinnati, who gets the nickel reps? Cordrea Tankersley, Cornell Armstrong, assuming Torrey McTyer is in the nickel and Rashad Jones remains sidelined.
Woo! Nah, you're in trouble. And Cincinnati sees that. And so the real question isn't just McTyer starting at cornerback. It's when these 3 wide receivers we just mentioned, they spread them out and they demand the Dolphins.
I don't know if I'm starting McTyer, and here's why I might not start McTyer. you need size against a guy like A.J. Green. If there is a game that I'm going to give Cordrea Tankersley, my starter for 11 games last season, an opportunity to say, hey, I'm ready. I'm coming out of this sophomore slump.
He's been inactive the last 2 games.
No, he played last week. He's been active. Yeah, he was inactive for the second and third game of the season.
Okay, 2 games.
Listen, he is a third-round pick. Torrey McTyer was an undrafted player. There's a reason why. One has size and speed. One just has speed. Give me the guy with size and speed against A.J. Green.
Tankersley is one of the mysteries to me this season because, you go to London last year, he gets his first start against Drew Brees, and he's good.
Yeah.
And he was pretty good, up and
Contributed
down,
win.
youthful mistakes, but you thought, okay, maybe they got some. And then this year, right from training camp, he didn't look like the same player.
If I'm Adam Gase, I'm pulling Cordrea Tankersley in my office, and I'm having a heart-to-heart conversation with him. And I'm saying to him, listen, we drafted you here, and we put you in position to be the starter. This can give you financial security for the rest of your life. You don't want to be a third-round washout. What we ask you to do this week, do it. Do it to the best of your abilities, and I will give you that chance to redeem yourself and get out of this rut. Because nobody expected him to come out and play as well as he did against New Orleans and contribute to the win against Atlanta and sort of show you signs before the injury that, hey, we might have something here. But at some point, a guy needs a lifeline. Cordrea Tankersley this week, he needs a lifeline.
Okay, they need somebody.
They
need somebody to step forward if they're going to stop the Bengals. Okay, Luke Fader asks, do you think the game against the Bengals determines the Dolphins' wild card playoff chances?
That's a great question, and I'm going to go with a yes on the answer, and here's the reason why.
It's week 5.
It's week 5.
We're determining playoff game?
Absolutely, no question.
Okay.
You know who's going to be in the mix, Dave.
I know who's in the mix.
You know who's going to be in the mix, Dave.
I know about week 14. 10 teams will have a shot at it.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
Okay.
Don't let me take your steam.
You know Jacksonville's going to be there. They're going to win that division. You know Pittsburgh's going to be there. They're going to win that division.
I don't know Pittsburgh's going to be there.
Oh, come on.
They'll
eventually get Le'Veon Bell back. They'll eventually get hot. They've got best receiver in the game, best running back in the game, one of the top 5 quarterbacks. They will get their mojo back. It's Mike Tomlin. So now I'm worried about Cincinnati, Baltimore, Indianapolis, Tennessee,
San Diego. I mean, you can count 8 teams you're worried about. All that matters is getting wins to me right now.
Yeah, but getting wins and then having those tiebreakers, because let's say it's 9-7, it's between me and the Bengals.
9-7 is not going to get you in the playoffs.
Oh, got them in.
Got Buffalo in last year. I know.
9-7. Let's just say 9-7 is, gets me in the game. I want to have that tiebreaker against Cincinnati. So I'm going to say, yes, this game is going to be determining who's going to go to the playoffs.
Wow, now that is a bold prediction in week 5. I see the thinking. Yes, you need to beat any potential playoff competitor.
Yeah.
It's a little early for me to be worrying about that, though.
You worry about that in November, right? Yeah. I'm just saying, this is an elimination game right now.
Okay, Juan Valley wants to know, James White gave Miami fits on Sunday. How would you defend the combination of Giovanni Bernard and Mark Walton? Now, let me give a little, before you answer that, a little personal. Giovanni Bernard, James White, St. Thomas Aquinas, not only teammates, Bernard lived with James White in high school for his last year. So, anyways, go ahead. Now that we've given that little personal stuff.
James White, Giovanni Bernard, Mark Walton,
Philip
Greg Sony Michelle. Boy, when when there's a South Florida back out in the equation, Devontae Freeman, you better go out there and you better do what it takes to go get a South Florida back. Because that's the one thing I can tell you that we breed down here is tailbacks and cornerbacks. 2 positions. If they're from South Florida, there's a
Duke
good chance.
Johnson, Lamar Miller. I mean, you can go on and on with that. Yeah.
So what you need to see is you need to make sure that the edges are set. Because those Giovanni Bernard and Mark Walton, they're the type of backs where they get out in the creases. it could be a long day for you. Just like Baltimore's back, another South Florida kid, I forget his name. And he beat them up last year.
Yeah, the Arkansas guy went to Arkansas, not here. Yeah.
He, you have to be physical with these backs, and you got to contain the edges. And this has got to be a game where Raekwon McMillan shows up. You know how I am, Dave. I'm critical when I watch the film. And there's been one guy that I can tell you when watching the film consistently is struggling, consistently is slow, consistently is misdiagnosing, consistently can't shed blocks. And that's Raekwon McMillan.
Consistently, really, unfortunately, since first game of preseason. He's been a little lost out there. Now we're into you get there'd be rust from not playing for a year, but we're getting past that stage where, okay, now is this a problem? Is it rust, or are we talking a bigger problem here?
Yeah, and this is a guy, you didn't do anything to your linebacker unit other than elevate him and draft Jerome Baker. And Jerome Baker, who was his little brother at Ohio State, the guy that leaned on him to diagnose everything and tell him what's happening, he's playing better than Raekwon McMillan. And you don't have a chance if Raekwon McMillan isn't good, especially with Chase Allen's sideline.
Well, especially when you're beat up in the secondary where you can't
and in the
say
we're going
to play, which they never do, dime or something a little more exotic. So,
but at least people have learned to respect Kiko Alonso at this point. Maybe that's I don't know. I don't think South Florida fans have ever not see Kiko as a liability.
He's had a good start.
Yeah, he's
right. I mean, I think everybody sees that. And if you're looking for a bright spot, it would have been Xavier Howard until last week, and Kiko Alonso throughout.
Yeah, definitely. Now they need a bright spot offensively. Hopefully the Smurfs can deliver for them against Cincinnati. But I'm unfortunately going to pick a 24-21 Bengals victory. I just think that this team right now, no tight end, no center, low on defensive tackles, linebacker can't shed blocks. I just see this going to be a Bengals game for Miami. They're going to suffer their second straight loss on the road and get themselves to 3-2.
Well, unfortunately, I got to agree with you, Omar. I think the Bengals are going to hit their average 31-24, and for many of the reasons you said, not the least of which is on the road, and they're playing a Cincinnati team that's playing pretty well right now. So
and get Vontaze Bertha back.
So I don't know, 3-2.
What's your score?
31-24.
31-24. So you got them scoring 24 points at least.
I got at least a little firepower in this game.
Yeah.
And you see across the league, there's a lot of teams scoring a lot of points. And we haven't seen it here.
We shall see on Sunday, 1 o'clock against the Cincinnati Bengals on the road. Omar Kelly and Dave Hyde for X's and Omar. See you next week at 1 o'clock.